What's going on, Badger fans? Welcome to the Positivity Show on Locked On Badgers. I think we need to be a little more excited and a little happier with our record. Let's talk about the positives on today's Locked On Badgers. Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, Badger fan? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day. Really do appreciate everybody tuning in as we just continue to build this community. Every single one of you are amazing, and I love what we're doing here on Locked On Badgers. So really do appreciate that. Listen, coming off it's not a great win against Rutgers, but coming off a win against Rutgers, Wisconsin is 4-1, the only undefeated in-conference team in the Big Ten West. And I feel like the vibes are all wonky right now. And listen, I'm not innocent on this. We did the post-game reaction show, and I'm frustrated by stuff. I'm frustrated by drops and this and that. But I didn't even really want to go into that show with a ton of frustration because I said it kind of before the show to Justin when we were talking. I said it on the Discord. I'm not as angry about this as I feel like a lot of Badger fans are. I think Badger fans are more upset with this loss than maybe we should be. And again, I'm never telling anybody how to fan. Everybody fan the way you want to fan. But maybe we need to take a step back a little bit and look at this team's 4-1, right? They're in the driver's seat in the West. It's a coaching staff's first year, and they haven't fallen on their face. Like that in and to itself is an accomplishment. Do not take for granted wins against bad conference teams. Yes, they're bad conference teams historically. Do not take it for granted, though, is what I would say. And I think the expectations were just set a little high. I certainly played a part in that, but this is also right where I thought we'd be 4-1 at this point. We're 4-1. We've outscored every other team in the Big Ten West. We've given up less points than every other team in the Big Ten West. We're 2-0 in conference to start the year, and our one loss was to a good Washington State team on the road. Like, there's a lot of positives to pull from this field. It's not all weeds and dead crops here. There's some good corn out there to harvest. Like, let's take a breath. I think there's a lot of positives here that maybe because of expectations, because we want everything to click right away, maybe we're overlooking some of the positives here. And maybe we're underselling some of the challenges. So, and again, I've been in on that. Like, I don't live in a glass house here. I thought the passing game would be better than this. I'm frustrated by drops. But that's for another show. This is the positivity show. So again, let's talk about the spot in the Big Ten right now. Wisconsin's in the driver's seat in the West. Iowa is a huge game next week. Iowa's Deacon Hill, and they're coming to Wisconsin. Wisconsin could lose that game, absolutely, but they're probably not going to, right? You went on the road to Purdue. You beat a team with a good quarterback on the road. Today's game against Rutgers wasn't pretty, but was there ever any point in the game where you were worried? There's never any point in this game I was stressed out about Rutgers being able to beat Wisconsin, right? Like I guess what I'm saying is don't take that for granted, right? It's going to be really easy for someone to push back and say, well, it's Rutgers, you should annihilate them. No, a lot of teams don't, right? Like when I say Wisconsin has scored more points than any team in the Big Ten West and given up less points than any team in the Big Ten West, people will say, well, it's the Big Ten West, and West is terrible. Sure, I agree. But it's sure better to be on top of those metrics in the West than at the bottom. Illinois is 0-3 in conference. They're at the bottom of the Big Ten West. Imagine being at the bottom of a bad division instead of being at the top, right? Wisconsin's not a great team. They're not. That's okay. That's okay this year. They can be a not great team and finish with 9 wins. And as long as the trajectory keeps going up, I think the arrow is pointing up. I think the recruiting class that Luke Fickell is coming in is an upgrade. I think you're going to hit the portal again this offseason. Like, it's okay if this year is kind of an ugly 9 or 10 win season, right? 8 wins. I don't think it's going to be 8. I think it's going to be 9 or 10 wins, and it's going to be a little ugly. Do you know how many programs would kill for an ugly 9-win season? An ugly 10-win season. Nebraska would trade Omaha for an ugly 9-win season, right? And I think that's what we're on track to be, an ugly 9 or 10-win season. I wouldn't lose sight of how strong the foundation is at Wisconsin and the type of coach Luke Fickell is, that he can come in here and work with. It's a flawed roster. It's not perfect. but take the team and still get 9 or 10 wins in what is going to be a bit of an ugly transition year. The other thing I want to talk about is Braylen Allen. I think that, again, much like the team, I think the level of expectations has set a bit of a standard that Braylen Allen's not living up to. And because he's not living up to an incredibly high standard, the criticism is probably a little over the top at times, right? Like, he's a really good running back. Braylen Allen, first of all, he's dinged up. This is part of the knock on Braylen Allen. He gets dinged up. He gets hurt. I don't think he's fully healthy. I think pretty clearly he's not fully healthy. You remember what he looked like in that Buffalo game. He hasn't looked like he's had that burst in several weeks. I think he's dinged up. He's hurt. We saw him limping around today's game. And listen, that's a valid criticism, right? I'm not here to try and make excuses for anybody. Like, it's a valid criticism. If you get dinged up a lot and you can't rarely play at your top level, that's a valid criticism. That being said, after today's games, he's going to be at 6.46 yards per carry. That's third or fourth best in the Big Ten. Like, maybe we just need to acknowledge the fact that when he came in as a freshman and he averaged 6+ yards per carry as a 17-year-old and he had that huge game against Nebraska, we thought this could be one of the running backs in the pantheon of greats, right? And he's probably just not that. And that's okay. Like, just because he's not like a Jonathan Taylor or a Melvin Gordon, he's probably in that Corey Clement mold. He's probably in that type of mold, that type of tier at Wisconsin, which is really good. That's still a really good player. We were talking about it in the Discord, talking about if we'd want Braylen Allen to come back or not. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Are you kidding me? Again, I don't think he will. I think he's going to the pros no matter what. I think he's going to declare for the draft. But he's a really good B+ type college starting running back. And does he fit this system perfectly? No. He's still averaging 6.4 yards per carry, though, right? Like, so, yeah, it's not the perfect fit, but if you're getting 6.4 per pop, he's got, 7 touchdowns this year? All I'm saying is he's pretty good, and maybe we just need to acknowledge that, too. He's a pretty good college running back. He's a really good college running back. Maybe he's just not a great one where the expectations were, and because of that, I think probably the criticism is it's because he's not living up to expectations that he's talked about, that the coaching staff has talked about, that we've talked about. And some of that, listen, he could play better. The fumble in today's game against Rutgers, that's inexcusable for an upperclassman. That's inexcusable for an underclassman, right? But from a production standpoint, he's pretty darn good. And he gives his team something that a lot of college football teams would like to have in their backfield. So, again, I think that part of it's a little overblown with the criticism of Braylen Allen. And I totally understand the perspective that he doesn't look as fluid in this offense as other running backs. I think that's a very fair perspective. I totally get the idea that people are really excited about the trio of running backs coming in next year's class, and they think they might fit this offense better. That could be true. But they haven't proven anything either, those freshmen. Like, Braylen Allen's proven it. Braylen Allen's proven he can be a good to really good college football running back at a high level. So, yeah, I would love to have him back. I don't think it'll happen. But maybe we just need to get to the point where we acknowledge he's more in that Corey Clement tier. He's more in that type of tier of running back, and that's still a really good player. All right, we're going to take a quick break here, and then I'm going to come back. I've got a bunch of little positives I want to talk about that I'm pretty excited about. We're going to talk about that next on the Positivity Show, a Locked On Badgers. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at LinkedIn. We've talked about LinkedIn a lot. We've talked about hiring a lot. Every hire is important. Every part of the team's important. Every part of the puzzle's important, right? You need to get the right people around you, develop the right ecosystem in your corporate environment. That's what LinkedIn is here to do. They're going to weed out all the chaff, all the stuff you don't want, all the weeds in the field, and just give you the best high quality, nutritious employee. Well, that sounds dark. They're going to give you the best employees and the best hires. That's why LinkedIn is America's #1 choice for professional development, hiring platform, and for hiring managers. That's why small businesses continue to rank LinkedIn as the #1 spot for delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. Simple tools, screening questions. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockdowncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockdowncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Today's show is also brought to you by FanDuel. Listen, the Braves took a little bit of a hit today, dropping game 1 to my most hated baseball team, the Phillies, lowercase p. I hate that team. Bryce Harper could go in a lake on a sabbatical for 7 years, and I wouldn't care. I wouldn't miss him. But still, I'm still on it. Braves to World Series, Niners Super Bowl, Phoenix Suns NBA Finals. Get on it with me. Parlay that. build up some coin, build up some bank over at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. Simple, easy to use, fast, secure. The app is incredibly user-friendly. And right now, new customers can bet $5, get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com. Parlays, futures, it's all there. Every sport. Kick off the NFL season with an offer you don't want to miss. FanDuel.com/lockedon, the official sports betting partner of the NFL. All right, let's keep going here. I have a link on the bottom for our Discord. If you're not familiar with what Discord is, it is just a free community. It's like a message board. We have all sorts of topics on there. The conversation's always popping. So if you're interested, gaming, fishing, food, beer, Packers, obviously Badgers. No politics, no Gophers. It's free. We'd love to have you there. It's a great time, great place for conversation. All right, let's get some more positives because, again, this is a positivity show, and I feel like we were, probably myself included. Again, I'm not innocent in this. A little too critical with certain things. So here's some more positives. I've harped on this a lot. I've talked about this a lot. I love Tanner Mordecai and the boys. I really think he isn't getting enough help around him, but he keeps this team in every game. I'm not worried with Tanner Mordecai back there that he's going to crumble. He's going to fall apart. He's going to make stupid mistakes. I trust the ball security. I trust the legs, which has been a big weapon over the last 2 or 3 weeks. I love him. I love Tanner Mordecai right now. For as much as you can love a guy who doesn't have a great touchdown interception ratio, listen, he's not an elite quarterback, okay? But he does a lot of the intangibles at an elite level. And that makes me feel pretty good going into just about every game and going into just about any hostile environment. I'm just not worried with him from the moment is too big standpoint. Jackson Acker, he looked great today. 5 yards a carry, ran physical, decisive, fast. You know, the biggest thing when a new player comes in to an expanded role, a player comes in to more reps, right? I just want to know, does he look the part? The stats is great. And it backs it up, but does he pass the eye test? Does he look like he knows what he's doing? Does he look like he belongs on the field? Does he look like the moment isn't too big for him? For me, Jackson is check, check, check. He looked the part. It didn't look too big for him. He looked decisive. He looked like a really competent running back. This is a comment from Dice One Gaming. I want to put this up here. He said, nobody believed me. The running back room is depth. Acker's a stud. Called it. Yeah, Dice One was all over this. I appreciate the comment, man. Yeah. I thought he looked completely legit. He looked like a really good number 2. He looked like a bigger Chez Malusi with the decisiveness. So I love it. I'm here for it. I thought he looked great. Rush defense. Let's talk about the rush defense more. What have we harped on all year? Tackling and rush defense. Tackling and rush defense. Rutgers ran 26 times for 64 yards. That's 2.9 per pop. Tackling was much improved. I thought the defense line held up. That's a solid running team in Rutgers. They want to run the ball. They want to control the line of scrimmage. They have a good running back, a mobile athletic quarterback. Wisconsin held up great in this game. Really impressed by that. So rush defense, tackling. I thought there were moments with Austin Brown where he looked really big and physical coming in at the safety spot. Kamoy Latu had a great run blitz wrapping up in the backfield. Hunter Wohler was his usual Hunter Wohler self. Lost his discipline for a second. That almost got him into huge trouble with that targeting yes or no hit. I didn't think he was targeting personally, but I don't think he needs to take that chance in that moment. But rush defense and tackling, big checkup. Next positive, Ricardo Hallman, STUD period. That dude's a stud. Pick 6, going 90-plus yards, flipped the game. He's really good. The anticipation is off the charts, really good in zone. You know, I think the man is a little exploitable with him because he's not the biggest, fastest guy, but he has a great feel, good hands. He's got 4 picks this year. He's developing into a stud, and that's a guy you're going to line him up in the secondary next year, along with some of the pieces Fickell's bringing in. That's another thing to be positive about going forward. Let's talk about C.J. Getz and Daryl Peterson. I thought Getz had the best game of this year, of the year this day against Rutgers. Sorry, I didn't word that great. I thought C.J. Getz had his best game against Rutgers that he's played all year. A couple really good pressures. I think he had 3 pressures that I was tracking it. I have to go back and look. He had at least 2, hit the quarterback a couple times. 1 coming off the left end, just beat the tackle or tight end. I'd have to go back and look, but beat him clean, got pressure right away. Gavin Wimsatt actually completed a really nice pass on that, but I thought C.J. Getz looked as good as he has looked all year. And then Daryl Peterson had a really nice inside spin move, got pressure. I thought it was a good game for both of those guys, getting some pressure, making Wimsatt uncomfortable. So that was good to see. And then Will Pauling, career game, 8 receptions. That dude drops nothing. He is everything that we thought he would be coming out of the portal, Will Pauling. So I thought that's another thing that they can continue building on. Listen, I think there's a lot of positives here. I really do. It's easy to talk about the negatives. We talked about some of them. But at the end of the day, the Badgers are 4-1. Is it an ugly 4-1? Probably. It's not. It's certainly not as pretty as I'd hoped. But it's still 4-1. It's better to be an ugly 4-1 than an ugly 3-2 or an ugly 2-3, right? Wins and losses still matter as long as the team continues to improve. This is a first-year coaching staff. Let's just keep that in the back of our minds. It's not an excuse for the entire year, but it is a reason, right? It's a reason why things probably won't be as clean as we'd hoped the entire year. I think we got a little swept up in it, again, myself included, but it's still 4-1. You're still probably going to win the division, right? You're still probably going to get a chance in a Big Ten championship game where anything can happen, and you have a quarterback who you trust in that moment. So, I don't know. That's where I'm at. I'm more positive after this game than I think a lot of people were. Again, I'm not going to ever tell anybody how to fan. There are certainly things to be critical of, but there's a lot of positives if you want to look for them too. So anyway, this is the Positivity Show on Locked On Badgers. Thank you for joining. And yeah, sharing the positivity, sharing the love. On Wisconsin, we'll talk later. Let's go.